Coming up in the latest episode of Netball Unlocked, Manchester Thunder are the champions, and a huge congratulations to them. We'll get into a grand final victory over Pulse and an epic occasion for the ages. Chloe was in Manchester. We'll hear from all of those involved and break down how the game was won and lost. Hello and a very warm welcome to the grand final review. Not quite an emergency episode, but a very, very warm welcome. Chloe, it's hot here. How was Manchester?
Manchester was amazing, Paul. I was so impressed with the production inside the Co-op Live. It's such an amazing kind of bowl atmosphere. The production was really cool. The way the players walked out. Everything was going so well until the confetti started falling from the ceiling. And everybody was a bit like, no, surely not me. Don't look at me. And then, I think it's netball all over, isn't it? Where you have this suddenly a burst of amazing, and then the realities of like watching your players take a moment to pick up pieces of paper that fall on the floor. But no, the atmosphere was incredible. I think there was a pretty decent London contingent in the house.
Yes, sounds it, yeah.
For all that's been said of it being basically a home grand final for Thunder. Yeah, like so special to be able to watch a match like that in person and feel that game and the twists and the turns and the momentum that swung throughout it. But yeah, I didn't arrive early enough to kind of do the fan stuff, so I can't speak to that. But certainly from that position as an experience, once the actual netball started, I thought it was pretty impressive, bar obviously the mic situation with the umpires, which was a bit frustrating because you could hear Gary a bit but couldn't hear Alison, so a bit stressful. But yeah, loved it. I don't know, how did it appear at home, Paul?
Yeah, it took me a while. I didn't watch it till Sunday night, it must be said. I dipped in and out. I knew the score, but I was working. I've got duties at work, and I've been on US Open coverage as well as various other bits and pieces, the World Cup with the American men's national team. So I deliberately didn't want to just squeeze it in. I wanted to sit and watch it properly. So I actually watched it all from start to finish in a fairly cool living room at about 10:30 on Sunday evening. Incredible game. We'll get into the ins and the outs of that. I thought production, there was a lot to like about it. I loved the drone cam that was kind of going across the top of the court, and you kind of, that vantage point. We talk about the teams watching from huddle sometimes, which is sort of that, but at a kind of 45-degree angle. And I think for us, when you are a fan, to be able to watch some of that unfold was very, very cool. Lighting looked a little bit out when you and I were discussing this via text. I'm not quite sure if that was a broadcast thing or a venue thing or a bit of both, like the halftime interviews. I mean, Amy and Zara were kind of pitch black, it felt like, so we couldn't kind of see them. But I'm with you, the actual venue and the way it magnified the arena, like the O2 last year, it looked fantastic. It looked superb. The clash of pink and yellow looked great, such a vivid explosion. And obviously, we had an absolutely thrilling game, which helps. But the atmosphere was brilliant. I spoke before about how Thunder and Pulse represent everything that a modern Super League should look. And I think if you throw in a brilliant game and a stunning venue and broadly a really strong production, it felt like a big occasion, and that was good, and it looked good as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think it is a shame that the lighting doesn't come across very well on the broadcast, because in the arena, the fact that everything's dark just amplifies being a sound verb. Sorry, it doesn't make a lot of sense from what I'm saying, but it illuminates. Then it draws your eye right to the action, and
100%.
You didn't have any of that sort of shadowy nonsense that I think you could see a little bit on the broadcast. But yeah, like as you said, and I think the fans, I think the numbers were maybe a little, like ever so slightly down on last year. So I think the O2 Arena was like 9,327 or something. It's definitely 9,300, I can say with my chest.
Yeah, it was
the rest
just under 10,000.
just under, yeah. And I think the Co-op Live, there was some debate between like just 9,000 or 8,000, but I think it was somewhere in between. But you didn't feel the difference between the noise. The atmosphere was still absolutely amazing. So I think in all cases, as we've talked about a little bit with the the semi-final and the prelim final, the way that fans have to turn up quite quickly and make a decision about going because they don't know if their team is in. I mean, there's folks like you and I that just turn up to any netball, right, Paul? But the hardcores that need to figure out logistically, like the trip from London up to Manchester, like I think the commitment was absolutely there. So that's really cool. And it does show you that there are people that really, really do care about this league. And maybe there are folks that couldn't make it because, you know, who still absolutely love it as well, not discounting them. But yeah, the energy to turn up, especially as you walked out of the Co-op Live, Paul, there was folks turning up to watch Take That down the
Yeah.
street. So yeah, it was a busy day in Manchester. So again, the cost of that not to be taken out of the equation for those that made it and made the effort to make it.
But yeah, like I think if we look at what netball wants to be before we get into the game, that sort of core crowd. Now we had a O2 final and we've had a co-op final, and we're looking around that. Let's say 8 to 10,000. Maybe you could go a little bit above that with a bit more time and whatnot. But I think that's where we talk about learning lessons, right? That's where our lesson is. Okay, this is a crowd that we can get for a memorable occasion at the end of the season. So how can we harness that into weekly strong attendances, and not just at the Copper Box or the Motorpoint Arena or Bellevue, but how can we get that on a consistent basis all the way? Because I think then you start to attract the serious sponsors and the partners. And obviously we've had more partners than ever before. Still don't have a title sponsor for the league, but there feels like there have been some steps forward in that regard. Can we take now 2 years of that huge body of support and production and what a Super League final can be? Because again, it was last year's final was great. This year was an epic. And I think we can take that now as something to hopefully attract even more people to the sport. And I don't want to dwell too much on negative, but I've been on this train all year. I thought the lack of mainstream media coverage was pretty poor. Like on Saturday afternoon at 3:25, I think I text you a picture. The BBC's website had literally no reference to the fact there was a Super League final going on. Not even a preview. And their report, which at time of recording was still up, still had Eleanor Cardwell as scoring like the super shot goal that effectively defines the game, the one that made it sort of 53-51. I thought that was poor. Sky had a nice feature with Karen Greig up on their website before the game started, or before the weekend started. But their match report was 4 paragraphs in a live blog and video highlights. The Telegraph Women's Sport, who I feel have kind of let the sport down because it's a full season, you could really get into the nitty gritty. Their report was in newsletter form on Sunday morning, which I feel is kind of missing the point of a big occasion. And this is not just netball, right? Any big occasion, you kind of want to elevate your biggest moment. So yeah, to me, that was a bit of a letdown. And I put on social media on Saturday morning, like, shout out to all the netball podcasters this year who've kind of fought a good fight and carried it on all season. And it just felt a little bit like, okay, well, maybe you'll all jump on the bandwagon when the Commonwealth Games come around, but you're going to be there in February 2027 when the season opener is getting going. So yeah, look, that was a little bit disappointing for me, but it shouldn't detract from a brilliant game, a really strong season as well, and an occasion that I think we will all remember. And I'm only gutted that I wasn't actually there as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it was so nice seeing the podcast folks out there. We were en masse, as it were. And yeah, it's, as you say, like I think the final feels so epic when you've ridden out the season as well. Like that's one of those things, like to parachute in would have also been a bit, it would have been nice because it is the big moment, but there's also there's a lack of sincerity around that. And I mean, the fact that you have that final moment and you don't, as mainstream media, as you say, like make the most of it, it does feel a bit, especially like BBC's down the road in Manchester, right? So that's another bit that I couldn't quite wrap my head around. But you know, there are people that really do care, and I don't know what eventually swings this conversation, Paul, with media. Like I really don't. And I know that having written for the Guardian for netball, their interest is primarily and solely really with international netball. And I think until this league really continues to like put its best foot forward and consistently put its best foot forward, I would say, because there have been some attempts and there are still some things that we're missing. I don't know if you'll see that. So we'll see. Maybe the Olympic thing changes it. we'll see that maybe later this year, I think. So we'll see.
I think I'm realistic enough to know I've worked in the industry long enough. It's a digital publishing thing as well, right? People are chasing page views, and you're not going to get 150,000 people who are going to read a report. But I think certainly women's rugby, and I would say women's Super League football as well, they've shown that actually if you dedicate some people to it, and those press packs have been following those sports and those leagues for such a long time, they do such a brilliant job. They're trusted, they can ask difficult questions. You then get the quality of content that comes with it. I've said before, I think it requires a commitment from editors to kind of go above and beyond to doing that. And I think the industry is in a pretty difficult state at the moment to sort of make that, well, I suppose would be a brave commitment, right? To sort of a certain amount of column inches every week, to use old parlance. But yeah, it's a tricky one, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I wanted to
Well,
get that off
also,
my
Paul,
chest.
just quickly, it depends if you think that the written word is the best way to talk about netball, to use
That,
as a
that is the
vehicle.
second point I was going to make. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the number of podcasts suggest to you, or suggest to me at least, that maybe there is a different way to talk about the sport, and maybe that's what some of these folks in the quote unquote mainstream are missing, that it doesn't actually, you don't have to have a written report on the whistle anymore. Maybe it is social media first and person to camera, or if it's podcast, like as we benefit from, because I know from chatting to the folks that we meet that come up to us to talk to us, Paul, like we go with them, right? We're in your
Yeah.
pocket, you're in your car, you
We're on the
can't
dog walk.
and you're on the dog walk because we fit alongside your life, and maybe there isn't the habit of sitting and reading netball columns, and maybe that's because people haven't had that in netball. So why would you start doing that now if you've not used to reading your netball news but instead listening to it? So it is an interesting one, but I think it's like you and I could talk for hours, right, about the sport industry and where things are going, but it would take something creative, and it would take someone to kind of just really want to take the sport by the horns, and it isn't easy to cover the sport for the reasons we have spoken about as well. So yeah, anyway, I put that
It's a
out
good
there.
debate there, right? Like I think that's the point, right? I think the conversation around it, and you're right, because the way to consume media is so different now. I've had to adapt the way I cover sport over the years, so it's a tricky one. But look, enough of that. We'll move on to a grand final of the highest caliber in just a second. I'm going to mark your card very quickly, because we're going to be busy, we think, over the next couple of days, hours, weeks, depending on when you listen to this. We have an England squad coming later this week, and Chloe and I will be all over that for you. We'll drop an episode as soon as we can, once we've got the squad. Hopefully, once we've got one or two interviews to go alongside it, small spoiler. We'll then have our big picture grand final, big picture review of the season. And then we will hopefully be in a position to share some of our plans for the Commonwealth Games, right, Chloe?
That's the idea. And there are other squads that we haven't spoken about that have come out since we were recording this, and we thought we'd address those when we address England. So if you're waiting for some sort of like breakdown on Australia and New Zealand, they're in note form, but they'll be coming alongside, because I think you got to have that conversation all at once is probably the meatiest way to do it, right? And that's, we like to get to the detail, don't we, Paul?
We do, and I think that's the best way to approach it, right? Because we want to talk about that international kind of platform when we get a chance to later on this season. So it makes sense to kind of break it down. We've had New Zealand, we've had Australia. We will have England and Scotland in the next couple of days, we believe. We've had Tonga. I do not fancy my chances of trying to read out the Tonga squad list, so I might hand that to you, Chloe. But for now, look, let's get stuck into a grand final. The first question I'm going to ask you, Chloe, where would you put this in terms of grand finals that you've watched? Because I think it might have been my favourite.
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, I really liked it. I did really like it. I think there's so much about it that I think as a neutral, there's so much to love. I think it's... Yeah, go on. I think it might be my favourite as well, because I was reflecting when you have to do the hard bit of the job, which is to go and ask the losing team how they feel and what went wrong. So we do that. I did that. And we should say at this point, the post-match interviews I did alongside James, who works for SportsBeat, who does the write-ups for the Super League website. So we kind of handled the interviews that we've got, Paul, for the podcast. James and I do them together. The difference between Sam Bird and Zara Everitt for this loss versus the time where I interviewed them after their loss to Loughborough, was it 23?
23, yep.
Very different headspace, very different mindset. It wasn't so devastating. And that sounds crazy because obviously a loss is a loss and it's a grand final loss. But I just think it shows you the journey over time, the way that they kind of talk about the game. So that was another little element that I really enjoyed about it. It was very much like, yeah, this sucks, we'll be back. Whereas before it was like devastating. So yeah, no, I loved this game. I felt like I felt this game. My memory is so clear about this game as well, I think, because I literally went through every moment as it happened. But yeah, it's a goodie, isn't it?
So we'll hear from, as Chloe's teased there, we'll hear from Sam Bird and Zara Everitt from Pulse. We'll hear from Sophie Fawns, Elia McCormick, who has obviously now since told everyone she's retiring, but we spoke to her, so technically had the exclusive before she even told her teammates, if I'm correct, Chloe. That's right, yeah?
Yeah, that is correct.
So she's on the way. Cerys Finn, who has done the Next Gen and Super League double and is one of Super League's more crazy stories over the last few years. And of course, Victoria's coach, Karen Greig. So a lot to get stuck into. Where do you want to start, Chloe? The game, which obviously ended in a 54-51 win to Thunder, 2 quarters, one each, a tactical arm wrestle every inch of the way, tiny margins in the end separating this game. I'll throw it to you.
I think you have to start with Karen's changes, the substitutions, right? That's what swung this game from Pulse leading at half-time to Manchester Thunder coming out on top. The bravery to put Cerys Finn on for a half to make her NSL debut in the grand final, and then the impact Cerys Finn had not only in defence but in attack. She took 10 centre passes, which I didn't really notice when I watched the game, but on my first of my many rewatches, clocked her doing, and I just thought, what an asset to be able to come on, but the confidence to do that. Then obviously Sophie Fawns' injection with Lois Pearson at wing attack, that shift just made an enormous difference. And luckily for everybody, I found the time to do some picky bits, so I can go into real detail about what Sophie Fawns is able to do, plus with the Lois Pearson connection. But I think that was massive, ultimately massive. I think the one thing that also sticks out massively on this stat sheet is the super shots. There's the difference in super shots and the way that changed the game as well. I loved that there were some things we were expecting, and then there was the twists and turns of a grand final as well. But the beef that we talked about was also there. I do wonder when I talk about Karen's changes, the lack of changes also from London Pulse, I think, is also quite telling about how this game ended out. No substitutions. And I wonder if, again, when they look back, they might do things a little differently on that front. But yeah, that's my overarching view, Paul, before we get into the minutiae. What did you think?
Yeah, hard to disagree, really. On the subject of Pulse changes, I was thinking the same thing. But then when I watched the game back again today, Pulse did quite a lot right. And I think the fact that the super shot was very skewered in favour of Thunder maybe gave the illusion to Pulse of kind of sticking with what we're doing, let's get it right. But in the end, they were playing catch up throughout the fourth quarter. And that is, as we've spoken several times throughout this season, a very, very difficult thing to do. So I think for me, that ability to have watched a slightly below par Lois Pearson kind of phased out of the game a little bit in the first half by a Pulse defence that sort of carried on where they left off against Lightning. I think Nia commented on that in commentary. But then to tell Lois kind of at halftime, this is what I'm going to need you to do. And she's such an intelligent player, such a brilliant player. That ability to flip from goal attack to wing attack and wing attack to goal attack has been a massive part of what's unlocked the Thunder attack end this year and allowed them to play Sophie Fawns, Lois and Eleanor Cardwell. So I think that ability to then re-inject Lois, and you've already mentioned Sophie Fawns, who has embraced everything about this league, And it was a joy to see her dad and granddad in the crowd, first of all. That was amazing. But then to be able to go on and affect a game in the way she has done all season. And yeah, we mentioned how important the bench might be. And I think Pulse trusted what they had out there. And, you know, but for a kind of centre pass that went slightly awry, we could have been talking about this in a slightly different way, and the ability of trusting that team to go out and just finish the job. It wasn't to be. And I think in the end, we've always said that the 10 Thunder have got this season might be the difference. And I do feel like that was the case. I think for Pulse, they carried on their level. They got a lot right. And I think were very much in the contest throughout. So it feels difficult to try and pick a particular hole in what went wrong for them, because I'm not actually sure anything went wrong. And I think that's to Thunder's credit. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. My take on it, macro take on the thing with London Pulse is the gains, right? It's the defense.
Yes, yeah.
And actually, Sam Bird kind of points out to this sort of Adelaide Thunderbird style of like, we'll just win the ball and convert it, and that's how we'll win a game. She said sort of as much to me. But after Nicola Smith went down of this Thunder side, and she was their main ball winner, I think Thunder knew at that point, if we're going to win this league, we're going to have to win the super shot.
Yeah.
Like you have to use the super shot to win. And Karen Greig says to this to us in the interview, in that second quarter, she said, we have a super shot. Our super shot strategy is such that we know how many points we can score in that period if we then go on to win the game. And we didn't do that in the second quarter. And that's what allowed Pulse to like take the lead back from us. So to me, like on a tactical front, the Thunder super shot period was always going to be when they sought to do the most damage. And that London Pulse, just unlike Loughborough Lightning, who could maybe always go toe-to-toe with anybody doing super shot, London Pulse didn't have that. And what was crazy was before there was one super shot scored by Sophie Kelly at half time, and that was it. And then by the end of the game, they have 4 in total, and Liv Cheen has none. Because I went to check, they scored only 4 super shots in the prelim final, but the volume in the 1 point time was much greater. And I still don't understand what happened to Loughborough Lightning's defence, if I'm being completely honest, in the prelim final. But I do think that whereas Sophie Kelly's volume in this game, she had 8 goals. That's way down. That's like 3. Did she not have 24 total?
Yeah, the level in the previous game, yeah.
So Thunder had to be smart about that in their defence. And I think Elia McCormick does a job. Cerys Finn does a job. They're very similar roles, but they really suck Sophie Kelly as much as they can out of the game, so that the pressure is then on them in the super shot. And we know that this is the team with the worst super shot record of the top 4. And I think that was what was exposed. And Sam Bird kind of conceded that, I think, in our post-match chat. She said, a bit like me, she's a purist, right? She doesn't like the super shot, would looking forward to watching the Commonwealth Games. But I think that was always going to be Thunder. The moment Nicola Smith went, they went, right, we just have to make sure that this super shot period, all these super shot periods go well for us. And it just, that second one in the second quarter, I think, opened up the game. But then the third quarter
took the game away again.
Yeah.
On
so
that,
it's really interesting.
I was reminded, because I did think the same when I watched the game, and I was reminded of something you told me, first of all, which was like, I think it was Thunderbirds who don't actually rely on the super shot. They rely on their ability to just play netball. And I kind of think that was the approach that Pulse took. And their prelim final seemed to suggest that tactic had worked, and that was their best performance of the season. So why would you not carry that on? But then when I was also thinking back, and hopefully this is where mass media alert, if you track a full season, you will find out these things. When Karen told us at the start of the year about just how much analysis they had been doing into super shots, Elle Cardwell was telling us the same when I spoke to her ahead of the season from Super League Media Day, that they had been going into it in a lot of detail. Now, you can like it or you can not like it, but it is part of the plan, right? You have to make a plan for it, both defending it and scoring it if you're an NSL team in 25, 26 and 27. So yeah, I take your point actually. Like, while I don't think Pulse did a lot wrong, probably the volume of the shooting was really ultimately where the game was won and lost, if you kind of weigh it up.
Yeah, and I think the word wrong is interesting because I think I think Sam Bird uses the word braver, and I think that's probably the right word. Yeah, because obviously it's a pressure cooker, those 5 minutes. And Karen Greig, I think if you could probably work out well, from what she says and what the game and how the game went, like how many points Thunder aimed to score in that period, and I would say it's 7+. Like when they get 7+, that's kind of, and 7+ points in 5 minutes is a good innings, definitely, giving the alternating centres and whatnot. But that's what they did in 1 and 3, and that's what really, took the game away. And I think it's always going to be the case with a super shot. A hot hand is always going to, as we said in the preview of this game, like, as that conversation about the philosophy of netball, like it's a goal and a turnover conversion. So yeah.
Should we hear from the coaches? Should we drop it in?
Go on then. Let's do that. We've spoken about what they've said. Let's do it. Let's have them in.
Sam, so close to going back to Bath. Where you kind of set out at the start of the season, kind of 2 minutes away. Sum up how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, quite emotional, but the standard of the game was very high. We obviously could have won it. I think the third quarter did for us a little bit, and some of the players, like, they'll naturally remember that last little bit. But I think the Thunder really just played a strong third, the last bit of the third, and that was the difference. I think our errors, although they felt could sort of see them more. I felt I could see the errors more, but actually it was still very low. And given the level of contest across the court, there's lots of positives, obviously, but when you're not quite there, it's difficult.
Was it more agonising that, as you say, you could have snatched it 49-49 at the last 2 minutes, kind of came back and felt like momentum was with you? Does that make it slightly even more kind of the one that got away slightly, or?
No, I think you've got to play well every quarter, and we had an opportunity to sort of pull away, and we didn't. And then they had a little 3-minute spell, literally, that made the difference. And that's credit to them that they were able to perform at that level. But no, I mean, I think it's really important we don't just look at the last 5 seconds or 20 seconds. We look at it as a whole. And I just sort of said to Sky that we're the only team that's come second in every competition this year. So second to Loughborough in the Super Cup, second in the league, and then second today. So, we know we are there or thereabouts. And, we've got to look at that when it's not so raw.
I suppose the finishing second, as you said there, Sam, that means you're in a first season ever going back to back. You're close to it. You must take some positives from that as a overall picture.
I think so. I think, and for a player like Gracie that was euphoric last year and then has learned that it hurts losing as well. It's all really good sort of experience for next season. And whilst it's not an experience you want, it's probably an experience you have to expect to have at some point. I think there was definitely a lot of belief we would go back to back after our outstanding performance against Loughborough. But we've got to look at things like, we're playing in Manchester. We've had to travel up. We've had an extra game, and when you're still only losing by the finest of margins, I don't think the final will be here next year. So that'll be less travel, maybe more of a neutral crowd. And you've got to control what you can control. And I thought we did that on the whole. But say it's the tightest of losses.
You mentioned that the very last bit of the third quarter, that's the super shot period, and the super shots on the stat sheet, they speak quite a lot to where the scoreline ended up.
Yeah.
Where was your super strategy today, and do you feel like you executed it the way you wanted to?
I think we could have been a bit braver, albeit we were confident on our 1 point, and a bit like Adelaide Thunderbirds, just scoring off our 1 points and putting the other team under pressure. And they did start to miss those, but then they had a little spell. It was just a really hot spell on 2 points, and that's what you get with this league and the rules where 2 points matter. But But I think also at the other end in the third quarter, we probably, I need to look back, but I think we won the least ball in the third quarter as well. So it was a bit of a double whammy, really. And then we won a load of ball again in the last quarter. But in the third, when the quarters flipped, we definitely won ball up one end more than the other. So that's something we'll have a look at as well. But yeah, Dan super shot. As a purist old girl, I like 1 point netball. I can't wait to watch the Commonwealth Games where it's like proper real netball.
Yeah.
But Thunder have got some outstanding 2 point shooters, and they were strong when it mattered.
Signing window on Monday.
Yeah.
All the that comes with that. I mean, a season as a whole, Sam, are you happy with where you are? What do you want to build on for next year? Can you give us any insight into what you might be looking for? Is that cheeky to ask?
It's very cheeky, Claire. I don't know. We'll just take our time, I think. Obviously, the signing window's open Monday, so I'll be sobering up tomorrow. But I think it won't be any surprise that we'll retain a lot of players. So it's more about I think just thinking about what other teams, how they might be trying to strengthen and how we neutralise that. So not being too inward looking, but having a little think about what the other teams are doing to improve. We expect Forest to come up with maybe a different goal attack. Loughborough, there's going to be some changes. So I think whilst looking at ourselves and how we get better, either with the players we've got to get better or changing up slightly, it'll also be how we combat changes from other teams, because everybody's trying to improve each year. It's not going to stay the same. So, yeah.
Great. And finally, what will you be up to tonight? How will you be regrouping with the girls?
We've got a garden party. So I think I need to just drink and see where we go. But I obviously want to be around the girls. It's really important when they're low that I'm there when they're low as well. So we'll make sure we stay together. Remember, there is life outside netball, and some of them are going to be straight back into international duty. So it's important they just enjoy today. Remember they've made a grand final and lost, by a hair's breadth.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
Hello. Wow. Well, you have some water. You deserve some water.
I've got a bottle of vodka in there. I should just go again and just do for this. It's fine.
That is off the record.
Tampered with it. I don't care. I won't get done at this point. What can I do?
Karen Greig, Super League champion. Thunder are now 5-time Super League champions. Tell me what it means.
Oh, God, it means absolutely everything. And what a ride it's been this season, from not winning a game at Super Cup to winning the league and then winning the Super League Grand Final is definitely epic, I think, and I know people kind of wavered on us and didn't believe that we could get there. And even this week, I think there's been a lot of belief that Pulse were going to do it. To be able to silence those people feels pretty good, to be honest.
Season's over now. You can tell us tactically, right? Give me the whole breakdown of how that happened.
Come on, Chloe, you're pretty good at analysing stuff yourself. We know that Pulse can win ball quickly, and for me especially, hands come from anywhere. They're hungry onto everything. I think there was definitely times in the game where we gave them an in, and we made some sloppy choices and stopped moving to ball, and was just expecting things to hand, and they were just then getting hands through everything, running through us, which made our job even harder. We kind of regrouped at half time and again in that third quarter of just that belief that we've got everything we need in our toolbox to be able to, if we use it at the right time, we can win. And they were pretty good for probably 90% of the game.
So in your toolbox was a super shot, and when you look at the stat sheet, that screams out. Was that part of the play? You knew you could shoot those twos?
We know that we know that in super shot time we need to be hitting a certain number of points in super shot time, and if we don't hit those points, then it's unlikely that we would win that quarter or the game. So the quarter two definitely let us down. We didn't hit our target. But I think, the fact that the girls backed themselves in, even when I was screaming, take the one, and they took the two and scored them, I was like, okay, that just shut me up. You take it, and ultimately if a player's in the flow and they're feeling it, then I would never obviously want to stunt that belief.
And how was your heart in those finals?
Well, I haven't checked my watch yet, but I reckon it must have been at around 170, 180 maybe. But for me, it was all around that last centre pass that Pulse, unfortunately for them, threw it away. I was screaming at them.
Centre pass defence, though.
Yeah, great centre pass defence for us, for sure. But I think I was screaming at them, flipping it. We've got 45 seconds to play possession. Actually, we can just go and score a 1. Then it's our centre pass. Like, can we do that, please? But no, they wanted to finish it out the way they wanted to do it. And who am I to take that away from it at this point?
Karen, also last year, that was really tough for your club, for a franchise, the players you had in and out. I'm sure you came in, you recruited incredibly well. Sophie Fawns, player of the match, not an accident, I'm sure. That journey, that transformation, bigger picture must be really cool for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and every year is completely different. And yeah, last year was a challenge. We had a lot of things thrown at us, and this season hasn't really been a smooth sailing either. Losing Nick so close to finals, what was non-ideal for us, because she was right up there in the stats and winning us a lot of balls. So we just had to make sure that everyone else was really on task, and we were able to do that. And we found a way. We always say, Manchester Thunder, it doesn't matter what the opposition, we have to find a way, and we definitely did that today.
And a super sub in Kos.
Oh my God, can you believe that kid? Bless her. She joined us 3 weeks ago, and she's gone from not having a contract at the start of this season to being a champion. I mean, that's some kind of story, isn't it? And she came on at half time, and the impact that she had on that first centre pass with just those big arms and forcing that error that was enabling Lois to kind of pick it up and get the scraps. That's only stuff someone like Cerys can dream of, I'm sure. And I'm really proud of how she's slotted into our environment, grabbed the opportunity with both hands and run with it.
Elia gave us a sneaky exclusive. She said she's going to tell the girls, but a word on her career being at Manchester Thunder and what she's done for the club.
Why did you go there, Chloe? You'll make me cry. I mean, yeah, Elia's played for me since she was 12. She's been in my programme since she was 12, and she's a great kid. She's had many setbacks, an ACL, she's had an Achilles, she had a bit of a hamstring problem this season, at the start of the season, and that kid is a never say die. And she throws everything, energy, whether she's on court, whether she's off court, I leave no stone unturned. And she's just such a beautiful person as well. So I'm gutted that she's not going to be with us next year, but I'm super excited for her to go on her adventures.
I suppose you couldn't really write a better way to finish to win a title in Manchester. And as someone who's been, so associated with Northwest Netball for so long, what does it mean to win a title in Manchester in front of so many of your fans?
I mean, we've been talking about the stars aligning all year, and I think when Nicola got injured, I thought, bloody hell, that Mars stars, done one. I mean, to be here in my 10th season in the 25-year anniversary of the club, to win our 5th title, to go equal with Team Bath is definitely something special. The girls are buzzing, the staff are buzzing, and it's not happened by accident, that's for sure.
And why is it so important that this final was held here rather than schlepping down to London every time?
I think,
an area that's so synonymous with Englishmen.
Yeah, I think it's important that Northern Netball fans get the opportunity to back netball up here, because there's plenty of them, trust me, like the talent that come through our pathways, the leagues that are happening, it's more accessible for Scottish fans as well, and those North Wales fans. So to open it up to the North, you can just tap into such a bigger range of supporters, and I think we felt that today. I think the crowd was just over 8,000 or something like that, and I think it just proves that netball just doesn't have to be in London all the time.
And on Sophie, you kind of made the first move in the sort of the chess game. You chucked her on, and must be quite vindicating as a coach for the subs you chuck on to win.
Yeah, I think we know what every player can do. We've worked flipping hard to get them to believe in themselves and to know what their role is at certain points, and we knew that Sophie was kind of our joker card that we could play at any point. And, I think we got a bit sticky in that second quarter. We got a bit tight. We stopped moving to ball. They were getting hands to stuff. I think Sophie just came in and injected a little bit more speed, and she really opened up the game, which the way she played that baseline, I think at times absolutely killed them. So it definitely added a lot more dimension to our attack end. I'm happy that I made that change when I did, and the impact that it had throughout, and a well-deserved player of the match for her.
And on her partner in crime, Elia McCormick, Thunder have got 5 titles. She's got 5 titles. I mean, what does she mean to you in this club?
I mean, Laura Malcolm's also got 5 titles. So, there are 3 of us at this club at this moment in time that have been there for every single one. And that's definitely something that we're proud of. And Elle, from her journey this season, from where she was of having not played netball for 12 months to smashing in the twos and actually adding different dimensions to her game as she's become fitter and more focused on what she can actually do. She's definitely proved to be a huge weapon for us this year.
Last question, Karen. What's better, Take That at the Co-op Live or Netball at the Co-op?
Oh my God, I actually loved when we lifted the trophy. Just after we lifted the trophy, they played Take That, Rule the World. So I will take that. But yeah, Take That were brilliant last night, and I think it would be nice if they gave us a shout out tonight. Yeah. It wouldn't it be nice if we just got the message? If anyone wants to get the message to Howard or Mark or Gary,
message to Take That.
Can we get the message to Take That? That we're champions. Can anyone knock on next door and get them to do a shout out? That'd be amazing. Exactly. Mark Owen went to my school, you know. He should know.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, two very different camps, Chloe, definitely. Sam was very interesting, though, on bigger picture, right?
Yes, well, when you have the opportunity and, you know, signing window is open, you've got to ask the question, right? And that's why we did all of these interviews, started asking and, you know, ended up with some great results off the back of it. But yes, that will probably, let's come back to that point about her signing strategy, maybe when we come onto this game. But yeah, look, Karen Greig, they're absolutely jubilant. And then obviously so emotional talking about Elia as well, because that comes up in her interview also, and you can't maybe tell, but her eyes were streaming. She was pouring tears talking about McCormick leaving. But yeah, I just think that the hinge points that we were talking about are exactly the ones that the coaches are going to talk about as well, and what Sophie Fawns was able to do. Maybe we could get into that now, and I could sort of show you why she's the super sub. Oh, I love the way Karen Greig called her the Joker, because I think that's perfect, actually, because I think also with Sophie Fawns, when you may be like kind of casually looking at this league, maybe you're in Australia casting an eye over NSL, and you see Sophie Fawns being signed and you're maybe a bit surprised that she would make such a move, and then at the end you just see her getting player of the match and you think, well, of course, yeah, Sophie Fawns is the SSN player that's come across, and it makes sense that doesn't really speak to the journey that I think Sophie Fawns and this Thunder team have been on. I
totally agree with you, yeah.
And I think maybe it's not surprising that she can play at that level. I think the arena she won't be too unfamiliar with, because SSN games are in arenas. She's played in grand finals. She's won with the Swifts. But the netball and the amount of netball that she was being asked to play by Manchester Thunder, I think, is very different from what she was doing at Swifts. And she was clutch in the shooting aspect of this game. It wasn't always wholly accurate, actually, when you look at the stat sheet, but the shots she did get in, when they went in, were really, really important. So I think that was the idea. So the notion of a joker, I think, is quite brilliant, actually, as a way to express that.
I agree. And we've spoken about this through the season, but I do think if our league is to grow, we are going to need to attract players like Sophie Fawns to it. And that might just be the fringe element of Suncorp netball and players who are looking to kick on. Mentioned it with Tyler Raw as well before. But I think the way both players, in fact, have come across, completely embraced the challenge, shone when they've needed to shine, maybe accepted that there'll be a role for me to play and it might not always be in the starting seven. I think absolutely will do wonders. And I wonder if Sophie Fawns' legacy, which will be fantastic in Manchester, clearly, but actually goes a little bit further for us in the Super League, in the type and the caliber of player we can look to attract, which ultimately then builds and grows our league, because she's been thrilling to watch.
Yeah, and actually I thought the Off the Court podcast from Sky in the build-up to this game was really fascinating, hearing from Karen, and I think, again, maybe a bit understated, not by us, I think, but generally, like Elle Cardwell's injury, the rebuild that had to happen there, Nat Metcalf coming back from pregnancy, so didn't have an NSL season last year. Lois Pearson had 30 minutes of an NSL season last year, and then Sophie Fawns, that is, yes, SSN player, but wasn't having a ton of minutes and SSN either. So there was actually a project that had to be built there. They are excellent players who can produce the performance that we saw yesterday, but not without work, figuring things out, and then being tested against an unbelievable defence who you've said, I think, brilliantly, and they were very I mean, still slowing down Thunder, arms everywhere. The deflection count, I think, was something you could see and feel in the arena. But I do think ultimately that one-on-one between Fawns and Fedoju, I think Fawns wins that in every aspect. She's maybe the first player, I think, to completely have the kit to undo Fumi Fedoju. And I'll hopefully illustrate this in my picky bits, but when you actually look at Fedoju, given the talisman that she is and the quality of player that she is as well, she actually left the court with 2 gains. Gracie Smith had 4, Zara Everitt had 4, Halle Adio 2, and Fumi Fedoju 2. But it's not just on the stat sheet. I mean that. I mean it in the sense of also the aerial ball. When Fawns goes up for a ball, she can compete and win. So you remember Alice Harvey's injury came from trying to compete one-on-one up in the air with Sophie Fawns. It's the height, the physicality, the step change, and those are skills. The step changes are skills she would have harnessed and developed very, very well in Australia. But having a player that size, that height, moving that quickly, and then also being able to go up and compete in a way where Fedoju so often wins those battles, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because the game was close, but it was sort of how you spoke about being close, but being in control. I think with Fawns on the court and Pearson connecting with her, Thunder felt more in control of their fate, I think, at any other point in the season against that Pulse defence. So maybe, Paul, time to get the picky bits out.
Get the picky bits out. Yes, get the picky bits out, Flo.
As ever, this is a visual bit of the podcast, the vodcast. So from podcast to podcast, so if you could get in front of a screen and watch this, I think it would really help. I'll do my best to explain it as I go. So if you can't watch it, you can hopefully hear it. But yeah, the opening slide of this PowerPoint presentation is a Sophie Fawns masterclass featuring marvellous Lois Pearson, because it is a team game and it wasn't just Fawns on her own. But Paul, I just spoke there about Fawns' physicality, and one of the assets that she's able to bring to this Thunder side is that matchup, being the height that she is and the strength that she is. And we're going to see it in her ability to screen. And screening is such a big part of any team sport, ball sport. We hear it a lot in basketball, right, Paul, with picks and rolls, but also in football. And it's something when you're learning to play netball and you're a shooter, you get really good at, because you understand that that's sometimes how you have to play. But we know the box, the narrow box. It was spoken about. Tamsin spoke about it in the broadcast and on the tactical side of things for Pulse's defence. We've spoken about it so much. But this was it's Fawns' ability to screen Fedoju and Adio that along with Elle Cardwell's ability to screen Fedoju and Adio, that really kind of helps out Thunder get through some of that stickiness that the Pulse defence can cause. So these bits are all from the 3rd and 4th quarter, which is when Pearson and Fawns are on. And I slowed them down a little bit as well. So, but I'll stop and start them. But yeah, so we're catching the centre pass. At this point, Thunder are behind, and Amy Carter's got the centre pass, right? So she comes here and gives it to Lois Pearson. Pearson turns and looks, and already you can see on your screen, Sophie Fawns is at the transverse line. Elle Cardwell's running out. Amy Carter is actually behind Lois Pearson. So Pearson is committed to turning forward. So that's a pretty tough vision for her to see. So she releases it to Cardwell, whose exits out of the circle are really important to breaking up this box shape. But it's not the only thing that's actually going on. But here she's at least the release point. So she wants to give it back to Pearson. Now, Paul, do you remember when we did Picky Bits previously? I talked about Thunder beating the box by going at the top of the circle. Look at the attention here that Lois Pearson has, right? She's in a sandwich of Zara Everitt and Halle Adio. And Halle Adio has come out as a keeper to mark effectively the space at the top of the circle. And I really, really like the way Halle Adio's game this season has evolved as a keeper. She's playing that goalkeeper, goal defence position in the keeper bib really well. And this is an example of that. So Cardwell can't pass to Pearson. There's that double sandwich on right there. Carter is behind Smith to the right of Elle Cardwell, and Sophie Fawns is behind Fumi Fedoju, right? So that's not an ideal situation. So that means that Elle Cardwell, goal shooter, has to pass back to the transverse line and find her way back into the circle, right? Because she shouldn't be anywhere near here, or she's not a threat when she's out here. So that means, I mean, look at the sludge, right? Everybody's trying to get through, get out. Everitt is going to chase through Pearson to stop that ball. So McKevitt actually has to go to Sophie Fawns, who's really high. So Fawns has the ball, and then Doju is doubled back onto El Cardwell with Adio. So the box shape is a little bit stressed here. And then Fawns releases the ball to Lois Pearson, and Nenya's going to cut through the middle of the circle. But look what she does there. Bang. Straight into screen for Doju to keep her away. And now look where Lois Pearson's body is facing and who's on the run. It's El Cardwell, who's just been protecting her space from Hanima Adio. And this is what Pearson can do. Fearlessly feed that over the top. Bang. Right? It's really subtle because you're not really watching the screen as it happens. You're watching the ball, but
and they've had to work hard for it. And they've had to work hard for it as well, right? Like you said.
Absolutely. And it's that bit of extra protection to keep Fumi Doju, whose aerial game is so strong, for a feed that is going to go up and over. You just slightly keep her out of it, just hold her back. So that's something that Fawns does really well in this game. So picking up again, this is a centre pass or two later. Thunder are still behind. And it's something really similar. So Carter's going to give the ball out to Pearson, who captures it and then gives it back to Carter. El Cardwell's come out the circle again to try, in case they needed that point of release, that she hasn't, so she's going to re-enter back into the circle. And then Carter fakes, but knows that there's no option going on because look, see again, Everitt and Adio on Fawns at the top of the circle. They're really guarding that space. So they've learned, like Pulse has learned that this is a danger zone for them, obviously, from their experience. So we've seen that evolution in their defense there, I suppose. And then Carter actually has to give this ball out to McKevitt, and that's a gnarly one because that's on over the transverse line and it's not ball side, but McKevitt gets that safe pair of hands that she is. And in that process, Zara Everitt has basically followed Pearson up and pushed her up as high as possible to create that narrow box. So Pearson's going to receive that. She's going to turn and look in, and you can see the box is there. Sends it out to Carter, and she's going to drive through the middle of the box. But Carter can't give that because Smith covers that very well. Everitt's still at the top of the circle. But then look what Fawns is doing on your screen here. She's come up right behind Doju to screen there. Keep her up because the space, if Carter looked in, the space was there to go up and over in, but the timing, etc., don't want to give away a ball that you're not confident about. Okay, so that means they've got to go again. So Carter drops and drives. Sophie Fawns then enters through the middle, and Cardwell is up screening on Doju, and then Fawns is not going to be afraid to give that in up over the top. Bang. And then this was there's a little bit of beef after this. I don't know if you remember that point in the game where like
I do remember it,
yeah. That was a classic. Loved that.
Small segue. I do love the beef because I think it says a lot of things. It says this is the very top of the sport. And I also think it shows a massive respect between Hallie and Elle. It's like not wanting to give a single inch to a kind of fellow Roses teammate and no let up from either person. And they've gone at it now, twice in the last 4 weeks. Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Can you imagine England camp after this? Brilliant. I was having this conversation with someone next to me on the media bench. You've got that McKevitt-Scholes gate that's so fun. Also because they're such similar heights. So they are really going toe-to-toe. And then, the undercard fight
for the... quick. Yeah, so quick. Yeah,
the Adio Cardwell game. But yes, excellent segue. Enjoyed that. Back to the game again. So we're going to look at the screen. And this is now, we're in the fourth quarter, 44-38. I think this is going to get to Thunder's biggest lead, which is up by 7 in the game. And here we have just that example of the screening again. And I think this is also speaking to the occasion. Like we are counting down, right? So decisions have to be sharp and they have to be correct. Just wanted to add that in at this point. So where El Cardwell has exited the circle, received the ball, and then look, everybody's coming in together, squeezed together. So Everitt has done a really good job. She's run with Pearson, screened her completely off. So Cardwell has to reset. Off she goes. And then Everitt follows Pearson up to the transverse line, but there's been a penalty call. So we take the ball back over here to the circle edge. Now, I think these are really interesting because these are sort of like dead ball scenarios. So this is the kind of thing you would practice for in training. Like, okay, if the ball was one here, what do we do? And you can see Fawns and Cardwell have come together and they've been squeezed together by Adio and Fedoju. And that on paper is actually kind of a situation you're happy with as a defender, because you want your shooters, you want to be able to feel and see exactly where they are, and the proximity of that situation is technically in your favor. But Fawns is already there screening Fedoju out, and then she's going to turn and release, and the smarts here from Pearson, sorry, I pause that, to wait to give that once Hallie has come round. And then Fawns is very quickly just going to send that over the top to Cardwell and then draws a contact from Fedoju. So it's just that physical advantage that Fawns is going to bring, and that timing from Pearson to just present that. So it is actually in the end a one-on-one with a defender, which with the right feed over, you can win. And then now we're going to follow at 45-40, 10 minutes left. So Pearson, we pick up, has the ball. We're in the attacking third. And Fawns' run out the top of the circle has been covered by Smith and Everitt. So Pearson swings the ball to Carter. Fedoju, do you see there, runs out, thinks about it, because those are the balls that they want to be working to pick off. Doesn't quite get there. So she shimmies back to double up on Cardwell. Carter can't see anything on, so transverse line, back to Carter. Pearson runs to the pocket, gets the ball, gives it to Fawns for a 1-2-1-2. And this again is the smarts of Sophie Fawns. She just gets out. She wants to get a bit closer, wants to draw Adio round. Smith sticks her arm in, so that's a contact. So again, we're going to have that similar situation. And then Adio sets up on the front. And then look, Fawns is like, you want to be front? You can be really, really front. Screens her up, pushes her up. So the space is much safer to feed into. And Fedoju is on Cardwell's back by design. And it means that the feed, if well executed, which Pearson is going to do, is nice and safely in. And Cardwell has a nice shot at goal. Right? So that's another example of a great screen. Now, this bit of my presentation, it was a World Cup inspired, Paul.
As is your outfit, Chloe, as well.
As is my outfit, for those watching, yeah. John Barnes, The World in Motion. There's only one way to beat them, get around the back. And this struck me when I first saw it during the game. And then when I watched it back, I had a giggle to myself. This is another way to beat the box that Sophie Fawns uses. And these are two great examples of it. But sometimes the commitment to the structure means that you can be free. Right? Like if Fedoju has to sit in a box and lets Fawns out of her sight, Adio lets Fawns out of her sight, then actually Fawns is going to have space to work with. And it's what Karen Greig said in the interview about killing them on the baseline. It's kind of simple, but kind of genius, which is why I thought I introduced it with this quote. But this is the first example of it, I believe is, yes, quarter 3, right? So Cerys Finn, you go, taking that centre pass, as I was talking about earlier, the bravery of her to be on court doing that casually in the Super League Grand Final. Amy Carter gives the ball to Lois Pearson. Pearson, well marked by Zara Everitt, gives it to Taylor McKevitt. Box, right? So back to Pearson, looking, boxes in shape. And look where Sophie Fawns is, Paul. All alone, under the post, with the ball, right? And Lois Pearson is going to give it. Yeah, I'll have that. Because if I take us back a little bit, while all of this is going on, so watch Fawns and Fedoju this time and not the ball. Fedoju's going to go right into her box shape, and Fawns has come out. She's not on your screen, but she's just going to come in at the back. And it's the bravery and the smarts and the connection of Lois Pearson, because Cardwell is slightly screening Fedoju, right? So she's not going to be able to jump running back up onto Fawns, to just give that ball all the way over the top, bang. She just gave her that freedom. Right. Here, we're at 6.5 minutes to go, 46-43, Thunder in the lead still, just. We're getting to that point where it's about to get really sticky. Skulls here has just given away an attacking contact, so we're starting from a dead ball situation. So Pearson is with the ball. And look at the attention right now. Fedoju and Adio both in front of Fawns and Cardwell. Pearson looks in, and Zara Everitt is going to track back to add a third defender. And I could think you're thinking here, Pearson is like, maybe I give this over the top, but decides against it. So no options. So that's on the 3rd second to the transverse line. Cardwell comes out through the middle, but the ball has already gone to Pearson. So then Cardwell and Fawns go back into the circle. The narrow box is there. Again, here, Fawns is propped up asking for the ball. Maybe on a different game at a different time, that feed might have gone in and Pearson might have given it, but not at this stage, I think, right? Not in this occasion. So Pearson looks back to the transverse line, goes again, box moves, and then watch Fawns, right? Out she comes, and then the box is there. Pearson's got her ball. She's gone back to Cerys Finn to reset for like the 4th time. And look, Fawns all the way up at the back. Bing. And Fedoju's like, clocks it. She's like, no, it's gone on, but it's already in and it's already safe. And so around the back. Bit cheeky, but works, right? And it's
Love it.
Yeah, I love it because I think it shows you the smarts of the game, the intelligence of the game to be able to go, actually, if they're going to commit so hard to the box, the space is going to be behind them. But Pearson also, not to detract at all from her work in that, to be able to just give that right ball over the top, and Cardwell just to hold at least one defender back to stop any kind of dive back through. And that's what Sophie Fawns was bringing to that game, including the clutch shots, which I talked about as well. Those big shots and those big moments that she was able to do. But it's a different physicality. That screen is just so effective when used correctly, and with Cardwell as a partner in crime for that as well, who can also hold her space. Yeah, so that's for me where Fawns was able to change the game for Thunder. Well, that she was able to bring in when she came off.
Shall we hear from not John Barnes, Sophie Fawns?
Yes.
Let's hear from her now. That was deliberate, by the way.
Sophie Fawns, player of the match, grand final. Your first season in this league. That's not a bad effort.
Oh my God, I'm just so happy that we've come away with the win.
And tell us about the game, how it went. You came on, you really shifted things for Thunder out there.
Yeah, it was a tough game and we knew it was going to be a tough game. Pulse are a quality side, and seeing how they've come up against us in Loughborough last week, we knew it was going to be tough. But for us, it was playing to our strengths, and we've been working on training what we needed to do. And I think for me, coming onto the court, starting off and coming on, it was just what can I bring to the game? And I think I just brought that change of pace that just kind of allowed us to open up the circle a little bit more. But ultimately, it was, a whole team effort.
And the season as a whole, Sophie, you made the trip over from Australia. People raise their eyebrows, but you come out here, you get a player of the match. How do you feel that Thunder grew through the season and to produce a result like that at the end?
Yeah, I think it's no surprise that we started, well, not a surprise, but we had a rocky start to the season. I think we Super Cup in the first round of the season, but honestly, we kept growing. And I think for us, it was just about pushing each other. We had all come into preseason, hadn't had most of our players. So to come in and build into what we have now, I think we were peaking at the right time, which is, they're just a quality side. We've got quality players, and to come away with a win is just all we could ask for.
And Dad and Granddad in the crowd. What was that like for you?
They came and surprised me on Thursday, and it was just so nice to have family here. I think something I took for granted probably when I was at home, to have them at majority of games. To come here, and especially after that semi-final, to see everyone celebrate with their family, and it's kind of me and Nick like, oh, just by ourselves. But we've kind of been adopted in, which is so lovely. But to have my family here just means so much, and all the love and support that I've had from home, I'm very, very lucky.
Thank you so much.
I'm kind of intrigued about what that halftime talk was like, because you were training, and then that third quarter was incredible from you guys. So just exactly.
Honestly, I feel like I've blacked out what was said at 3/4 time. I think for us, it was just kind of like, the energy looked a little bit flat, and it was just about going out there and doing our job. And it was kind of like Karen kind of said to us, is that reminder that there's still 30 minutes left in the game. And we knew we had a 20-minute break, which was longer than normal. And for us, it was like, okay, well, let's put everything out in the court in the first half, and let's bring it even more on that second half. And I think that's what we did. We came out with a bang.
Playing in front of a Manchester crowd on home soil as well. They were so loud out there today, and it felt like it really added to the momentum of the team. What was it like for you to play it here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a home game is honestly the best feeling. Like, the crowd really is that eighth player, and to have their support means the world. I think we do really have I know every club says it, but I really do think we have the best fans in the league. And for them to come out, and spend their money and come see us play, it means so much to us. And yeah, they mean so much to us.
And what was going through your head in that? I mean, you'd already probably won the game by that point, but when you threw that last shot and the buzzer went, what was that moment like for you? Just relive it for.
I think the last 2 minutes of the game, I was kind of like, I think it's going to be a bit of a super shootout. And so it was just about staying calm under that pressure and kind of knowing that, we've prepared for these situations. We've done this in training. That's kind of what my, I guess, training has been from back home as well. But, it was just about playing that possession game in the end and keeping safe with the ball. Anything can happen, and netball's so fast. And with the super shot, especially, anything can happen in those last few seconds. So for me, when we just I turned around and I saw there was 0 seconds left on the clock. Thank God.
Celebrations tonight?
Yeah. Of course. Be rude not to.
And tell us about those super shots, because that seemed to be kind of where it was won or lost. And you kind of now.
Yeah, I think for us as a team, like, we've got, 3 quality shooters, and I think we can all super shoot. And I think that's what one of our biggest strengths is. It's just a threat that you can't mark just one person. There's 2 of us you need to think about. And I think for us, it was just turning to post, being confident, and to have the support of Karen as well to say, go for it. Like, I back you, the girls saying they back us. And it's just about getting goals on the ball, because we knew that Pulse could come back at any moment.
And obviously it kind of looked nervous from here. Probably wasn't out there. What was kind of going through your head, especially in those kind of final few kind of.
Definitely I think going into 3 quarters with, I don't know how many goal lead we had, but going in with a lead again, we still kind of like, we go back to 0-0 and we keep pushing. We keep putting up those scores, and the game's not over yet. There's still 15 minutes to play. And I think, especially in those last 2 minutes where it was super shooting and, they were going for the ball, and it was just about that discipline as well. We didn't want to throw away a ball. We wanted to put pressure over them. And I think that's what we're so good at, what we train for, that we are such a team that plays well under pressure.
And you're going to hang around in Manchester a bit, or sort of see a bit of common games? Or?
We'll see. No, I'm going to go travelling around Europe, and then, no plans yet for next year. Thank you.
Sophie there, obviously, clearly happy. And I think an example, Chloe, as we've mentioned umpteen times this season, of just really smart recruitment, right? And I think you teased it a little bit earlier when you spoke to Sam, and we've heard from her about kind of what Pulse do next is going to be quite interesting. What did you make of it, having spoken to her?
Yeah, I thought it was so fascinating. I mean, the quick line from Sam about we'll be retaining a lot of our players. So I think anybody who's maybe a bit on SSN watch with their Pulse players, that might be a bit of a hint that maybe there isn't going to be that much movement. We don't know, but there was a confidence in that. Just very straightforward sentence. But this idea of like not looking too inwards, to spend some time in what everyone else is doing. And I think that you could read the subtext, that being the recruitment of someone like a Sophie Fawns into Manchester Thunder, and what they've got to look at, and what I love the line, neutralise, right? That's very clinical language from Sam Bird. But she pointed to Loughborough Lightning going to have some change. And then the obvious one, right? The one we're all talking about all season long, Nottingham Forest goal attack. So just curious. I thought it was brilliant to get that kind of insight from a coach at that point, because the signing window, we're recording this on a Monday evening, we should be open and honest, hence my France shirt. But it's open today. And and I think that Zara also talks about, you will just go have a break, have a think about it, and then come back at it again. I think that's kind of where Pulse are. Let's have a go away, have a think, have a look, recruit, think about what everyone else is doing, and come back. And that for me was the behaviour change, the shift change between 2026 and 2023. And
I think that's the big thing, right? Because I think we would all probably have identified Thunder and Lightning 5-6 years ago as the very top of the game, maybe a Wasps or a Storm, or as things evolved, as those teams that are up there. Pulse have now firmly put themselves in that equation, right? They've been in the playoffs the last 5 years. That's 3 grand finals now, lost 2, won 1. We've heard all about Loughborough kind of learning from so many of their defeats to then go away and win 3 in the last 6 years and things like that. So when we spoke about recruitment, it's about the smaller points and fine tuning, but there's a lot to be said for your own squad. And the top 3 do that really well, and recognising, okay, what do we need to learn and how do we need to do it? Let's hear from Zara Everitt as well.
Sorry, they didn't go your way today. Obviously, I mean, you must be pretty gutted. How do you kind of suck?
Yeah, totally gutted. I think I don't know whether it's worse to be in it and then to lose at the last minute or to have like had a totally rubbish game. I'm not sure. We had some great moments. Obviously, credit to Thunder. Well done to them. They deserved the win in the end, but we definitely took it to them the whole time. Yeah, we've had a really, really up and down season. Obviously, thought we came into form last week finally. Yeah, I think both teams are really, really smart, and we knew that whoever was going to be up by a couple at the end was ultimately going to win it because everyone's so smart with ball in hand. So yeah, gutted, but well done to Thunder.
Particularly Zara, where do you think the game was won and lost?
I do think a lot of it does come down to the super shot. Like you saw that they sunk 2 or 3 2-pointers. I think it was in the third quarter, and it just makes such a difference. It really emphasizes those small moments that then become really, really crucial. Like last week, we played really well at delaying the ball in that 2-point time, and today they just took it to us in the super shot time, and we weren't able to capitalize off the turnovers when we got them. So.
Up and down season that you spoke about there. I mean, talk us through some of the highs, maybe some of the lows on that.
Yeah, I mean, God, the season's gone so quickly, and I think we had probably 2 or 3 games where we just about edged through against some teams that we should have put a lot of goals on. Obviously, like all teams, we've had a couple of injuries, and probably having Gracie and Liz out with just a few games left to go at the end of the season was a real challenge. But it obviously strengthened us coming into the last few stages. There were probably tougher moments. I'd say the best moments, maybe even our last match against Nottingham was an awesome one. Obviously, last week was definitely the highlight. It showed everyone what Pulse is about, and hopefully what Pulse is still going to be about in years to come.
I suppose this is you. You've been on the winning side, you've been on the losing side, Zara. You know this feeling. What will you do now as a team to kind of push past it and crack on?
Well, to be honest, as you know, most of the girls are going into England camp in a couple of weeks, or in a week, I think. So, yeah, I think it is just enjoying the time off now for a week or so for them, for me a bit longer. Supporting each other in that off season. They'll continue to grow in the England environment. We'll obviously work hard in the post pre-season, and it's one game. If anything, it's actually a few minutes out of that game where we didn't perform. So yeah, we can hold our heads high, be proud of getting to the final in the first place. It's a really competitive league, and know that there's more to come from us. Thank you.
I suppose it's hard now, but you take a lot of heart from that. You made your up and down season. You were 2 minutes from winning it. There's obviously been frustration for you guys. How much do you take from that you came so close and probably put a lot of effort through?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that is how the league should be. These games should be decided by seconds, if not minutes. And yeah, obviously take heart from the fact that we've consistently been up there in the top 3, top 4 for maybe, was it 5 years now? It was only a couple of years ago that we had a very similar final against Loughborough, where I think we were up at half time and then we lost it. So, every year is another year of us gaining experience in a different scenario. Years to come, we will have done everything, and so we'll be prepared for all eventualities.
And how much you guys do you feel like you've moved on from that first grand final? It feels like you guys are obviously disappointed, but it doesn't maybe feel quite as catastrophic externally as it's maybe felt. It's like, how much have you guys kind of grown in a couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we've kind of been through it more now. We've learned to lose this year and to come back from it. We've all matured. Everyone has literally just got older, unfortunately. So yeah, we've definitely grown in as a team in that respect. But I think before, when we lost, it was like we hadn't quite done it yet. So you still have that thing that's kind of out of reach. We know we've done it now. We know we have the confidence that we can do it again. We obviously wanted to do the double, but there's an opportunity for us to do it again the following year. Hopefully we retain a lot of the same players, and we just build on, the previous years.
Zara, can we see you back next season?
We'll see if my Achilles holds up.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the captain, typically honest as well, and I think reflective of a bit of a roller coaster season. But I think that comes with being champions as well, doesn't it, Chloe? There's a target on you, and not just champions. Like 3-time, they won all 3 things last year. So that carries a lot because there's a target on your back. People want to take you out, and they kind of rode through some storms to get all the way back to the grand final. And yes, it will hurt, but knowing Sam, knowing Zara, and most of that squad, they'll come back even more determined next year.
Yeah, I mean, runner up, right? Super Cup, League, and Grand Final. So I think it just shows you that they were very much in the mix for all of it. But as you said, like that roller coaster, and And I'll be honest, Paul, there's a part of me that does wonder with this Pulse team and some of the comments made generally. I picked up on something Sam said to Tracy Neville in that off the court interview about maybe wanting to be braver, giving players a bit more of a break coming back from international. I don't know if in the years later we'll come back to this 2026 season with some of those England players about quite how tough that South Africa tour and that international block was, and really emotionally where some of them are at. And Zara, she's so classy, isn't she? She's such an eloquent player, and unsurprisingly, she's an Oxford lawyer. But I thought having a moment to think of her teammates that now just have to go into camp, and the ones unlike her that are going to be able to take a break. I do think they are still obviously very close to it. So it will be minor shifts and changes from what Sam was saying, and kind of looking at what everyone else is doing to see who goes first and what opens up. But I think that pivots us quite nicely into where Manchester Thunder now find themselves, with Elia McCormick sharing with us post-match exclusively that she was taking her break from netball, and this would be the last game for a while that she play, at least for Manchester Thunder. So, Paul, should we hear from her?
Let's hear from her. Yeah, heading for Australia as well.
Thank you,
Elia. I know this is a particularly special game for you. You've won the grand final. How does it feel?
Absolutely amazing. Like, even though there was highs, there was lows in that game, I definitely never had a doubt that we was absolutely going to win. It was written in the stars this year, and I think we all knew that, we all felt that, and that's probably what just got us over at the end. Yeah.
You've had to step up with Nick Smith coming out, and you played your first 2 60-minute games, and they were unbelievably important games to get you to here, and then to come out and play in front of this crowd. What did that ask of you as a player in this club?
I was so nervous, especially going against those top teams, and with Nicola, like, it's such big boots to fill. But I think, after that first one, it was just like, oh, I can do it actually, because I know that there's been games where I've played half, 3/4 and felt absolutely dead, but when you know you've got to do it, something just comes over you. It's the adrenaline, the fire, especially in those important games. So I'm just so proud of myself and just proud of the team, proud of Nicola, proud of Harris coming on today. Yeah, amazing.
And I guess, Elia, this is your club, the club you've only ever played for. You're in Manchester. Talk a bit about the production, the fans. It was super special.
Yeah, so special. I know as soon as we found out it was going to be here in Manchester at the Co-op, we were like, that is ours for a taking. Not a shadow of doubt. I've said to the girls, we're not going to lose today because I'm not going to let us. Like, it's a team sport, but I am not going to let us lose. Like, we are having this. And it's just so amazing for, like, women's sport, this being the first, like, event in Manchester. We can now say that we're the first team to win in Manchester. So that is history in itself.
And the season that you guys have been on, it's not been straightforward, but it's been one that you've ended up on the top. Can you speak about the journey that you've been on as a group this year?
Yeah, well, they're always the best journeys, aren't they? Like, too smooth sailing, you don't learn as much, and just building week on week and being able to, like, correct ourselves, have those tough conversations. That's what makes us better. It makes us better individuals, better team, and that's what makes us winners.
We've been, both of us, asking for signing news. Are you staying in Manchester next year?
I'm actually not staying in Manchester, so this is top secret information that I can reveal to you. First podcast here, but this is my final season in the Super League. Yeah, so what a special way to go out. I'm actually going to tell the girls when we get back to the changing room.
Oh my gosh.
So
okay.
This is just a cherry on top. It's very bittersweet, but I can't believe we've won in my last season. I can't believe I've started finally my last season. Again, it was written in the stars for me, I think.
It really was. And this is a club you've always played for, right?
Yeah.
So with it being in Manchester, was there any danger there's kind of extra pressure going into it in terms of those, you kind of said there's no way you could lose this. How do you kind of deal with that sort of, I guess, the expectation and pressure that if you did lose it, it's you're losing a pressure.
Yeah, I feel like we felt that pressure early on. Like, we felt the pressure to get to the final in Manchester. And then once we did, we were just excited. Like, I think we all just had it in us that we knew we were going to win. We knew we had to win. So once we got to the final, that was excitement. But the build up to the final, that was nervous. That was pressure, especially going into those, like, semis and finals. But how amazing that we had 2 matches in a row in Manchester and then the final in Manchester. Like, yeah, it was amazing.
What was that this week like in terms of final trainings? Who's kind of doing the talking? Who's kind of keeping the nerve?
Yeah. I mean, like, training this week, we just, like, was pushing each other so much. Like, our last training on Thursday, we were absolutely dripping. All of us was, like, it was crazy. Those bibs were stinky, honestly. But we just came out of it, like, thinking, wow, if we can push ourselves that hard, we are prepared, we are ready.
And you were. You
Yeah.
smashed it. And party tonight, Elia?
Oh my God, the celebrations are going to be absolutely amazing. Like, I cannot wait for it. Especially because it's in Manchester. Like, Manchester is the best place to go out in the world. I believe that. So I'm just so excited for us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah, look, such an excited player. I mean, the way she talked about sweaty bibs, it was so vivid. But I
You can
think
almost smell it there, couldn't you?
James and I were a bit blown away by that honesty to have been so open before she's even told her teammates she's telling us. And, you know, never hurts to ask those questions of what someone's doing next, because you never know where it might land you. But yeah, and I think what's so curious about Elia's departure and the way she was able to step up for Nicola Smith's going down was that also Cerys Finn enters the frame, right? And that is a talk about recruitment. I think a lot of people are wondering now, you Paul as well, you're asking me if Finn is going to get that spot at Thunder, given the way she stepped in. But we actually also hear from Finn. So should we hear from Finn and then talk about this situation, that
Yes.
the way she stepped into this side?
I think that's probably the wildest debut anybody's probably ever had in an episode. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, definitely a little bit crazy. It's been a whirlwind of a season, so I don't think it's anything new at this point. But yeah, super crazy and just super privileged to get the opportunity to do that.
Did you know you were going to get thrown in like that?
No, I was very much expecting to sit on the bench for the full 60 today. I was quite content there, actually.
Cerys, when Manchester Thunder call you up and ask you to trial and ask you to fill in Nicola Smith's shoes, and then they ask you to be part of the 10, how does that make you feel?
Oh, honestly, I'm just kind of so proud of the season I've had. I'm just really happy that people are actually noticing me. And yeah, it was kind of crazy because it was the same day I got told I was going to play for Mavs NSL. And that night, Karen phoned me, was just like, can you come play for Thunder NSL? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually allowed to. But yeah, no, it was a great opportunity.
And the Thunder environment, you've been in the nerve center of it, right at the very end of it. What have you learned about this group from the outside coming in?
I've never met a group that train harder. They train to be champions. I think that's probably something other franchises are lacking. But yeah, just work really hard and they back each other up just as hard.
Kind of walk us through the last couple of weeks then, in terms of Karen rings you up, you say yes. Yeah. How does that kind of then go to the point where you're sort of playing in a Netball Super League?
It was very much quick turnaround of me learning all their terms for everything. One thing about Thunder is they have a term for absolutely everything. Thanks to the girls were really useful. Sent me lots of information, lots of what I should be. But yeah, they were really nice. Didn't put too much pressure on me. But yeah, it's been great.
And I guess, Cerys, you had impact in that final as well. Right?
Apparently.
It may come as a surprise to you, but you really did. Getting to be a champion probably wasn't something you were expected to be this season.
No, actually, my only aim this season was Next Gen Champions, and we did that. And then they were like, you can do this. Yeah, no, just super stoked for the girls. I know they've worked really hard for it.
To have so much NSL experience, was that really in various clubs and guises? How sort of important was that for you after, I guess, World Youth Cup? And then I guess maybe people kind of thought you might be in with a chance of a contract or not or whatever. And then to kind of have it in so many different guises. What's it been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely crazy to begin with. At the beginning of the year, I was like, World Youth, still playing Next Gen, it'll be nice and chill. And then suddenly these phone calls started coming through. But it's just a great opportunity. And I think you just got to take it where it comes. So it's been great.
Commonwealth Games?
Oh, I cannot wait. Fingers crossed. Selection comes out on Monday for us. But yeah, in Scotland, which means it's really want to be there.
And Kath must have been excited for you for this opportunity as well.
Yeah, she was just as confused as I was that I was allowed to play for a third team, actually. But yeah, no, they're great. And it's just great for netball in Scotland for more of us to be playing down here in the Super League.
And then just sort of a few hours ago when Karen said, right, you're on, what's going through your mind? How do you sort of even begin to sort of deal with that?
Well, I was like, I needed to warm up. I'd been sat down the entire first half, and then they're like, you got a 20-minute break. So yeah, I just had to read over my little list of things that I meant to go on and do, refocus myself in, take a handful of sweets, and I was ready to go.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cerys Finn. Outrageous. You called it one of the more crazy stories. I think it's the craziest.
One of the more
craziest
stories I can remember in sort of however many years now it is, maybe 7-8 years of covering Super League. Ridiculous.
But Cerys not even knowing whether it was okay, and Kath Tetley. So that was the Kath that I was asking about, Kath Tetley. Both of them surprised that Cerys could even do this.
I have to say, when they signed her, that was my first question myself. It was like, but knowing how Thunder know the rulebook inside out, I knew it'd be fine. But I was like, really? And I think I called her, maybe on the pod, like a Super League gun for hire. And actually, when you consider the job she's done for Mavericks, for Panthers, and now for Thunder, she absolutely is. And I wonder if almost she's just awarded a general Super League contract next year and she's just parachuted into different environments, because I think it speaks to her mindset more than anything else to be able to go in and do that. It speaks to, the environments that she's gone into to be able to go and affect games. But yeah, a remarkable few weeks for her.
And to play 30 minutes and to win ball, a crucial ball. I just think it's, I think you could probably gauge from the interview that she's still surprised. I
don't think she could believe a single second of what's happened.
And then obviously, got our eyes straight away on the Commonwealth Games. So I don't even know how long she's even going to take to be able to process it. But I think one of the cool things, the insight there that she gives you is like the stepping into the Thunder environment and having to learn all the jargon. And there is so much jargon, but they train like champions. I think that tells you, it tells you a lot about how she's able to perform in it, but also the standards that these clubs that really want to be at the top are playing at. And I guess, will Cerys Finn take Elia McCormick's spot? I suppose these are the questions that are currently being discussed right now as we are literally recording, Paul, with the signing window.
She has to be, even before what she was able to produce for Thunder, she has to be a player in demand, because she's been really good. I was quite vocal. I felt Mavs should have probably turned to her earlier when she came back from Panthers, because I thought she acquitted herself so well. She's obviously gone and done so again. We'll get into maybe some recruitment stuff when we do our kind of full-on season review. But you would think when it comes to maybe defenders, she is going to be right up there as far as an option for several teams is concerned, because she can affect a game. And I think if you're not always going to start, you want someone who can affect a game, right? That's the reality of it. And she's shown she can do both admirably.
Completely agree. And, maybe we try follow Cerys on her crazy journey as she goes to the Commonwealth Games as well, because she pointed to the Scotland squad. I believe she didn't even celebrate with the Thunder team. She was straight to Scotland for camp. So it's tough,
Not even chance for a glass of lemonade.
Or vodka in the changing room.
You had a chance for more than a lemonade, Chloe.
I couldn't possibly tell.
But look, I think obviously we've heard from everybody involved along the way there. I think to finish off on the game, what a showcase. I know we said it at the top, and if we've got anything else that we really want to dig into, we can. But I do come away from it with stories and tactical battles and arm wrestles and all of the things that I love about top level sport. It gave it to us in buckets, and I dare say I'm going to probably watch that game again. It was so good. I've already told my daughter that she has to watch it again, with specific attention to attacking circles. So just a really good occasion, and you always love it when a final can live up to its billing, and it did. Credit to both teams.
Yeah, it was emotional. It was hard not to feel emotional as well when that final whistle goes. And as you said, that extra element of Sophie Fawns' dad and granddad being in the arena, the Manchester crowd for a Manchester win, just like a London crowd for a London win. I think when you do this work that we do, Paul, on the side of our careers, and you've been in this sport even longer than I have covering it, but we've both been really invested in it for so long. It's those moments, right, that keep you going. Oh, this netball stuff sometimes is absolutely, insert words I probably can't say on a podcast, it's actually insane. Why am I doing this? What is the point of all of this? It's so those are the rewarding ones for everybody involved when you start to see things like that. It's this is the sport at its best in this country, with the best people driving it and pushing it forwards. And when it all comes together, confetti on the floor aside, it's pretty bloody good.
in the spirit of celebrating all that is good, some awards dished out at the weekend as well. And obviously, clearly, awards mean controversy, if that's such a thing, or people getting a little bit aerated about things. Should we talk through the awards first of all? I think I'll hand it to you, Chloe. You go through who won what.
Right. So these are the season awards as presented by the league. Young Player of the Year, Jada Pekova. I believe that's the second year in a row that she's won that one.
I think so. Yes.
Yep. Fans Player of the Year, Jada Pekova. Player of the Year, Jada Pekova. Amex Super Shooter, Samantha Wallace-Joseph. Next Gen Player of the Year, Daisy Harrison of Team Bath. Coach of the Year, Ranger Bloxham. Gilbert Top Scorer, Samantha Wallace-Joseph. So I think the Amex and the Gilbert Awards are number-based, to be absolutely clear about that. So they are literally awarded on stats. The rest we could get into. Then the All-Star Team of the Year. Goalkeeper, Jada Pekova. Busy night for Jada Pekova. Goal defence, Jackie Newton. Wing defence, Taylor McKevitt. Centre, Iona Christian. Wing attack, Alicia Scholes. Goal attack, Ella Clark. Goal shooter, Samantha Wallace-Joseph. Also quite busy for Samantha Wallace-Joseph there. So those are all the awards as they are. And as you said, it's sort of brought up some feeling. I think Tracy Neville has led that. I don't have her tweet to hand. Maybe I should get that up. Should we do it like that? Should we lead with the Tracy Neville?
Yeah, I think so, because she's a big name talking about it, right? And then it can kind of spark a little bit of chat.
Cool. Okay.
Let me get a glass of water for a second. I've haven't had one.
Yep.
Sorry.
It's all right. So that is the awards. And what was interesting was Tracy Neville came out online off the back of them, and I think raises some important question pools that we can probably debate as we kind of reflect on who is awarded what and how it's awarded. But Tracy Neville, is this right? Every person has been extremely valuable to their teams, but for Karen Greig to have not won Coach of the Year, #master coach, #roses ready. And then she follows up with, I also have an opinion on the Team of the Year. They all made valuable contributions to their teams, but I don't believe this is the 7 strongest individuals. A Team of the Year should recognise consistency, impact and success, and there are players who better meet this criteria. So that's quite punchy from the former England coach. But I kind of understand where she's coming from, I think. And probably one of the big things around this that makes it potentially controversial as ever in netball is the fact that the criteria and how they are awarded is not totally transparent, or at least it's not communicated very, very clearly. And unsurprisingly, when you're handing out these awards on the day of the grand final, that maybe gets lost in the grand final itself. So Paul, we went, didn't we, and confirmed how these awards were announced. I'm going to throw it back to you just to share that, so then we could get into it.
Yeah, we did. I think whenever you do these things, awards in any level of sport, unless they're numbers based, and you and I were chatting about this before we started, they're going to incite debate. And in many ways, I think that's a good part about it. But I think, that's the point, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's why we did a Team of the Season at the halfway stage so far. Like those are the things. So I think we wanted to find out how they were voted on, first of all. And for the Player of the Year award and the Young Player of the Year award and the All-Star 7, it was 1 nomination per club, per award category, a collective decision, so only 1 submission per club, which effectively means that there are only 8 votes that can be handed out for each award. So I think that's always going to, if you've got a smaller number, you're going to get less room for disparity, maybe a bit more of an even split.
And also, Paul, that still leaves room for interpretation from each club as to how they do it.
And
So
you can't vote for one of your own, it should be said.
that's important. But I think the question is, does the club take it really seriously and get every individual to like put down their team and then collate it as a club and then go, okay, well, the majority, our 10 came to a unanimous decision on this, or this is split, and what happens if their 5 votes are equal on one position, what do they do? Or does someone go, what in the team, oh, I'm captain and like everyone's busy, I'll just do it. I like, this is another thing that I think is really interesting, even within that how that could be interpreted by the club and at what stage this is done, because this is really regular season.
Mm-hmm.
This is based off, not the postseason, to use basketball jargon.
And then on the Coach of the Year situation, our understanding is that after feedback last year, this year's Coach of the Year award was determined via club and panel vote. And the panel had people from the MPA, the umpiring team, commentary team, and the England netball performance team. So a little bit like an NBA or an NFL MVP award, you're bringing in a bit more wider thinking. So that's how all of that came to pass. No judgment on any position here from us. Spoiler alert, ours will be coming next week, our awards and our team of the year. But I think as far as that's concerned, I think that context is important, right? You need to know that those things are what go into picking these awards or selections or the rest of it. So I think that's where I come down on it. I have no beef with any of the decisions. I think it's clearly been voted for. So I think the fact you're kind of narrowing it down to just effectively 8 things having a vote you could have one person gets 2 and very quickly 6 get 1. So it's the person that gets 2 votes wins, right? Like in its very simple form. And that could make for a little bit of chaos maybe in some ways.
Yeah, and I think when you look at something like the NBA, they publish the breakdown. So you get
they do, yeah.
a notion of unanimous. So, if you're MVP and you're voted by everybody as MVP, it's even a better MVP because there was no doubt as to the fact that you should be an MVP. But interesting to use the word MVP or the adage, because I think to Tracy Neville's point, there's a lot about these maybe on the All-Star 7 about making valuable contributions. And I would say that is the tone of much of this, of most of these awards. And I think we had this kind of debate or discussion, at least when we presented our team at the halfway mark, about that MVP quality where someone has stood up for their side and that person has been successful and that side has appreciated some of the success because of that person's individual contributions, versus who are the strongest people in the league in these positions. Sam Bird last year not winning Coach of the Year when Pulse win every single aspect of the league, Super Cup, regular season, and the final. It's also, isn't it a bit mad that there's only one Pulse player and one Thunder player in a 7 when those team are the teams in the final, and Thunder, won their major semi-final and won their final. So I think going forwards, and this is something that if we were going to compare it to SSN, they have their NIS and net points sort of system, which you mentioned, like, is if you're awarded by vote, this is the other way you could do it, which is to just design a way to assess someone's contributions in a position on court using stats, and that's what SSN have done. And so you get sort of net points, as it were, and they are worked out using champion data stats. And then every week, the top scorers of each position in the round make the net points team of the week. And at the end of the season, you get the team of the year, and it's done by those numbers. And they're much harder to argue with, I think, because, the data is there. I suppose you could argue about how the stats are used in what formula, but it's less valuable contribution and more just like, okay, this person had all of these, accumulated these points all the way through the season, and this is how it is. I guess, Paul, are you team Tracy Neville, or are you gonna debate her on this if you could?
No, but I don't know, it's very big picture, right? I think for me, like, certainly the player of the year and the team of the year vote feels like that should go out to every individual player, and they should all be allowed to vote, much in the same way football, they have a PFA team of the year and a PFA player of the year and a young player of the year, and there are parameters for that. That feels to me the best way for that side of things to work. Coach of the year is obviously a little bit trickier. I think maybe you're probably looking at a panel to decide something like that. I think asking, which I suppose they have done this year, asking the 8 individuals involved to maybe pick their coach of the year is a little bit trickier. You know me, I'm a numbers guy as a rule. I think if we had reliable numbers, the sort of SSM formula is a good one. Netball is such a game of numbers that formula doesn't always seem to get too much wrong. Just from the outside looking in, it broadly looks like good players are getting picked. But then look, opinion is different, right? I think each week when we get our player of the match awards, we can sit there and say, really? Not sure about that. So I think it's a tough one. I think it should probably be a reflection of the whole season. You shouldn't have one set for the regular season and one set for the playoffs. I think you should probably wait to the end of the season, and then I think your award should come in then. That's how I would envisage it.
Yeah. Okay. So you wouldn't have like a finals sort of. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I mean,
I like the concept. I have to say, I like the concept of almost like a finals MVP. That's quite cool. But then, in some ways, you could in theory say Forest had won 3 games basically they would then have more games than maybe one team who had won 2 games, and they've got more chance to impress, and it becomes a slightly trickier thing to balance out. But I mean, I'm nitpicking with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sorry if anybody feels sick about us talking about basketball, but it is a big point of reference for us both. But like Western Conference Finals MVP is always going to go to the winning team of the Western Conference. So like Finals MVP is always going to go to the team that has therefore often played the most games, right? In the main on those results, do you agree with the team of the year?
No.
Okay.
You want me to give it away now, or are we going to do ours next?
No,
next
I
week?
guess no. You're right. Yeah, we'll just leave that there. Leave that as a cliffhanger, I suppose.
That's
and I
the
guess
tease, right? No, I don't disagree with a lot of it, but I would have my own personal preference. Would be I would have I think more changes than not changes, if that makes sense.
And then I wonder if this is all a bit British, because there's a lot of sentimentality with this, in that even with Coach of the Year, which is an expanded panel, Dragons finished 5th. So, it's an improvement. We should acknowledge that Dragons have, and I have on this podcast really praised the way that Dragons retained a squad, built it, got it back up to a place. It was in competition for top 4, but it didn't even make the top 4. So is it just like, are we always slightly, as a British audience, just always that little, not an underdog feeling, but we like the guy that kind of, the effort rather than and I might have brushed a whole lot of people up the wrong way with that. No. I appreciate that, but it's just, there is it's quite nice, isn't it, that they've done that? Like, maybe.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of an element of that to it, and I think that's perfectly fair to say. Ultimately, it's opinion. Do you agree with the team of the season, Chloe?
No, I don't.
No. So there you
but
go.
Also, the final issue with it, right, is that, and that would be a way that net points or whatever system you use would help you through that, is a player like Lois Pearson, as we literally also had in our discussion of the team at the midway point, is really hard to stick her in a goal attack or a wing attack. And that feels like such a disservice to Lois Pearson, given the way that I just spoke about Aaron Pickabits. So, but at least with net points, it would be clearer, because you would have all the contributions that she's able to make quantified, and then you could stick her in potentially the position where she played most overall. But yeah, that's netball. Like, people don't play in one position often.
No, it is that ability to be able to be movable, for want of a better description, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've given you more than enough there to make sure you tune in for our awards thing, because we've absolutely ridiculed that.
Not ridiculed. We challenged it. We asked questions of it.
Fair enough. We always like to ask questions, right? We ask questions of each other, Chloe, and we've asked questions here. So, yeah, come back next week when we'll get stuck into all of that. We might have a few of our own awards chucked in there as well. And I think before we wrap up, it's also worth pointing out a couple of players who are moving on. We've mentioned Elia McCormick. We mentioned Phil Yarrington during the season. Beth Durant as well. She's moving on. So that's already 3 spaces that we know are up for grabs in the Super League next year. So let the signing window commence, Chloe, I think is where we're going with this now.
Yeah, let the chaos begin. And we can, and that's what we will also do in next week's episode, is ask where the holes are, where you would reinforce, where you would desperately try and hold on to. And we should say, yep, signing window open Monday, 22nd of June, and the SSN signing window opens up the Monday after their grand final on the 4th of July. So,
and we are a step closer to the grand final. A very late, very quick visit to SSN Corner, Chloe. Have you been able to check in? Did you watch it?
I did. Of course I did. There's always time for more netball. The Thunderbirds beat the Melbourne Vixens 58-44, so not even that close. They dropped the first quarter actually, but then they came rolling through, and they put their place in the grand final. Elmarie van der Berg, who we've spoken to on this podcast and cannot recommend enough if you want to catch up with her. That's always a nice 30-minute serotonin boost, as it was for me. She was player of the match, and they await, exactly like in the NSL system, they await the winner of the preliminary final, which will be between the West Coast Fever and Vixens after Fever beat the Melbourne Mavericks. So the Mavericks, they made history by coming into the top 4, but not able to cross the line. That was a 56-52 win. And yeah, I think it could be fascinating, actually, really, Paul, for SSN, because should the Fever beat the Vixens, that means that the SSN Grand Final could not feature a Melbourne team despite being in Melbourne. So they've got that quirk to deal with over there. Yeah. So talk about a neutral ground maybe going forwards. But, I guess home advantage is on the list of things you'll be looking at as a coach, maybe not quite that high up there. But yes, I can, as we said, I was a bit iffy and early because it is finals netball, but Thunderbirds just still rolling on. So it'll be really interesting to see how that lands this weekend with Fever Vixens.
We'll wrap up shortly. We have got an England squad pod on the way. I like that. Squad pod. That's good. I like that. I might call it that. And
you make all the big decisions, Paul. I just sit here, don't I?
We'll get into, it's hot. It's hot. I've been working from home all day. It's very sweaty in this room. Sweaty bibs, going back to Elia McCormick. We'll get stuck into England. We'll talk the Aussies and we'll talk the Ferns as well, because both of those squads came along, and then we'll be back again. A little spoiler for the Commonwealth Games, and you've thrown this into our notes right at the end, Chloe. What may or may not be a teaser, we don't actually know, but Alyssa Scholes' dad, Paul Scholes of Manchester United and England fame, might have dropped the first spoiler for the England squad, right, Chloe?
Yeah, someone didn't listen to their embargo, I think, there. Everybody that saw that Instagram story, I think, came to the conclusion that the Scholes will not be travelling to a Commonwealth Games based on what he wrote. That doesn't mean that she's not a reserve, I would say, to anybody that thinks that rules are out of Glasgow. But it does seem to suggest that she didn't make the 12. So your 12, Paul, was taking a bit of a knock there, because that was your Maverick team from memory.
My 12 was a Berserker team. Yeah, I was quite clear about that. Right.
I don't know if it is Berserker, because she got Wig Attack of the Year.
I suppose my Berserker, in comparison to what I expect to happen, my feeling has always been, I think we all have felt England will probably play it safe-ish. I think Scholes is a Maverick factor. I'd have her in, definitely.
Safe-ish. Bear that thought in mind for when we do our squad review, because that's also what Stacey Marinkovic has mostly done. So yes, lots of netball still to talk about, isn't there? And the season debrief will be big and in its entirety when we get into it, I'm sure, for that next week. But yeah, the squad pod.
You like it, don't you, Tom?
It needs its own theme music, Paul. Yeah, we'll be coming this week. So yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to getting into all of that. I love international netball so much. I love no super shot. Let's go.
Notifications on, subscribe, make sure you're kind of following us, because we'll probably drop fairly unexpectedly at some point on Thursday once we have all the information that we need. We'll speak to you next time.